be bold, be heard. Welcome to Unmute Your Mic with your host, Jessica Bell.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Unmute Your Mic. My name is Jessica Bell. I am your host. I am in Kansas City, Missouri, and today I have my beautiful cousin with me. Her name is Jamise. She is also in Kansas City, Missouri. I'm so excited to have her on today. She has an amazing story. September is Sickle Cell Awareness Month, and so I definitely wanted to bring somebody on who I know has been fighting, but it's such a beautiful example of what it looks like to live your life to the fullest while struggling and while fighting and while really persevering through everything. So, Jamise, if you could just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, and then we can go from there.
Hello, my name is Jamise Hill. I go by Jada Ray on socials. I am 29 years old. I live in Kansas City, Missouri. I have two beautiful children, single, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you being willing to come on and talk and share your story because I know it's not always an easy thing to do. So I really appreciate that.
Of course,
Okay, so if we can just get in.
willing.
I'm sorry.
Anytime I can spread awareness, I'm more than willing.
Yeah, thank you. And so, speaking on that note, we can just kind of dive into it. If you could just kind of talk a little bit about just why you wanted to spread awareness for this specific cause.
Because living with sickle cell is kind of hard. It's an invisible disability, and it's really prone in the Black community, and not many people know about it unless they know somebody personally with it. And so I just try to spread awareness because we fight a harsh battle every day, and people can't really see it because I look fine. I don't look like I'm disabled at all. And so without you actually knowing me personally, you wouldn't know what I'm going through. And also, it's a blood disease, so it can be prevented. And so, I just want to let people know, that it can be prevented if you go get tested, when you're starting your family, so that way you can try to prevent your children from having this disability.
Okay, and what are some of the things? I know there are probably multiple, but what are some of the biggest struggles? I know you mentioned that it's like it's invisible, so people can't look at you and say, "Oh, she's not feeling well." But what are some of the other struggles, like in your day to day, that you have found?
It's really hard, especially because we have to be cautious about overexerting ourselves, staying hydrated. And, when you live with a disability for so long, you kind of learn, the do's and don'ts. So, like, because it can just come at any given time. I can be, out with family at a gathering or something, and then like next thing you know, I'm in pain. So it's like 1 minute I'm laughing, and the next minute I'm like, really fatigued and hurting, and people be like, "Oh, well, what's wrong with you?" But it's a blood disorder, so it's what's going on inside my body internally. My blood cells are shaped like a sickle. So sometimes they come and they get stuck in your veins. And so it causes severe pain in that area. And so, I try to give information to the people that are around me in my circle. That way, when they see me change, or, some people can see it because they're actually paying attention to me. But a lot of times, it'll just happen. And so, I just try to let everyone know around me, like, it doesn't have anything to do with you. It's something that I'm going through. Um, and so, I'm I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna, start making a scene or anything like that, because that makes it worse.
Yeah, I can definitely understand why that would be difficult because it's hard when you don't know. Like, do you get any kind of warning or does it just kind of sneak up on you?
Sometimes there's a warning, sometimes like my body will like start tingling, or it'll go a little numb, or, I'll be fine. And the next, I get really, really sleepy. And then other times, it just comes out of the blue.
Okay. So with that, you mentioned, obviously, I know that you are a mother. So how has that been trying to handle kind of controlling this your health, but then also raising kids at the same time?
Okay, that was one of my biggest battles because when I was younger, I never really had sickle pain, especially on a day-to-day basis. But and so I didn't really know much about. Like I knew everybody would say, you have sickle cell, but as a kid, you don't really know what that means.
Yeah.
And so when I went through my teenage years, I started having pain, going to the hospital and things like that. And the doctor would always say, like, you're not going to have ever live to have children. And it's just like,
Wow.
what? And so I didn't really know what that meant. And so when I had my daughter, my first child, and I started having complications, it was difficult for me because that's when the sickle cell started to I started to notice the pain and stuff. So I'm trying to learn how to be a mom and manage my health at the same time. And
Yeah.
so when I had my son, it got worse. Like I was in ICU a lot. And so I started to think, okay, so when the doctor told me that I would never have children, he probably didn't mean like you physically couldn't couldn't have children, but he probably meant like you
Hmm.
couldn't. But they didn't explain that, thoroughly, because that's when I noticed that my health started to decline. And so just being a mom and trying to battle that and health issues was hard, but thankfully I had a support system. And my kids, they're actually pretty good kids, and they can tell even if I don't say anything, like from the sound of my voice or how I act. They can actually tell when I'm not feeling good. And so thankfully, they try to help or do what they can. And it actually makes me feel better to know that I don't have to say it. Your kids, they feel everything that you're going through.
Yeah, and that is a huge blessing to have, to have kids that are, they're picking up on that, and they're
Yeah.
not just, they're like, okay, let's calm down, mom's not feeling well. That's a huge blessing. And also, I know you mentioned like having a support system, because
Yeah.
it's really hard to do stuff on your own, like even if you're completely well. So I can
Yeah.
imagine that if you're not feeling well or if you're struggling, how important the people around you would be.
It,
So who are some of the people that you've had in your support system, and how have they inspired you to kind of keep going?
well, I have my kids. Their family was very supportive of me. My mother, my grandmother, and my brothers. And I have a few cousins and friends that are like, they're really helpful. And so it's really because I used to live in Arizona. And so when I was in Arizona, I really didn't have a big support system. And so it was hard because, with the hospitalizations and taking your kids to school, taking care of your house and being a mom, cooking and, trying to keep everything together, it
Yeah.
became so when I came back home to Missouri, that's when I noticed the change, and I'm not always stressed because being stressed can also trigger a sickle cell crisis. So just to know that, the difference in what a big support system can.
Yeah. And so you mentioned stress and how stress can trigger it and make it
Yeah.
worse, which is also like I found that to be in a lot of like, different diseases and stuff. Stress is like the factor that makes it worse. So
Yeah.
what is it that you do to kind of keep your peace and not operate in that place that's super stressful, to kind of eliminate the flare ups happening?
I have to just keep in mind that stress, even if it's, something minor, just to try to let it go, because that can cause more damage than good. And, I try to listen to music when I'm feeling in that mood, or, I'll stay to myself. I watch a lot of documentaries, like ocean documentaries. I play with my kids, we watch movies, things like that to try to, just take my mind off of it and really like, I'm, such a bubbly person. So, even something like as small as like talking on the phone and laughing.
So I guess another question I would have for you is, if you're talking to somebody who has never heard of sickle cell, or maybe they really don't know anything about it, what is some things that you would tell them if they have maybe people in their family or people in their community that are struggling with sickle cell?
I pretty much just tell them to like pay attention to, their family member or, loved one that has it. Try to offer help because we are not going to ask for help, because we already feel like, a burden at times, especially like to family members who just don't get it, don't want to understand, so just, try to be there for them. Try to understand what they're going through, whether you want to look it up, ask questions. Um, and believe what they're saying because we already have it bad enough. We have to argue and battle with like doctors and nurses, family members, about our illness. So it's just like believe them when they tell you what's going on. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening.
Mm. That's really good. And I think that's really important, because a lot of times I think just even us as a society, we think people have to look sick in order to be sick. So we're like, "Oh, you look fine, girl. Your makeup's good." Like, what you mean? Like
Yeah,
you almost don't want to believe them because you can't see it. Um,
exactly.
but it
And it's
doesn't make it any less real.
yeah, and then it's really hard because growing up, when you're in children's hospital, um, you share the same doctors, the same hospital floor, rooms, with people that have cancer. And then, once you get older and they transfer you to an adult hospital, you still share the same doctor. You still have the same hospital room, same floor as cancer patients,
Mm.
but we don't get the urgency. We don't get the care that they get, and it's like we are one and the same. So I always try to tell people, if you have sympathy for those that have cancer, you can have sympathy for those that have sickle cell, because it's pretty much like almost the same thing. We deal with the same pain, we take the same medication, we share the same doctors, hospital floors, everything. So I try to just instill that into them because you hear a lot of people say, "Oh my God, like I feel so bad for this person. They have cancer and this and that." And then, especially with doctors, and then when you get to the sickle cell patient, like me and my friend, we did an experiment. We had pain. We grew up together with the same doctor, and so we both had to go to the hospital, and so we're for the same, medication, everything, and my friend gets treated way better with more urgency. And sickle cell is like, oh, you don't look that bad. Oh, it's mind over matter. Oh, you're not crying. So I can't believe that you're having the pain that you are. So I always try to remind people that.
Yeah, that's good. That's really unfortunate too, because you would think that as doctors they would be aware of what the disease is, how
Yeah.
painful it is, how it's affecting your body, and that they would know that you don't have to be crying on the floor to mean that you're actually in pain.
Yeah. And
And so, what do you think are
it's for
some things?
tears. I know how to remain calm without crying because that's just gonna make it worse.
Yeah, and so what do you think? What do you think are some things that can be done in the community to raise awareness for sickle cell?
I think we need to educate the people in the community more about it. To remind people, I think like, that should be something that's taught like in health classes too, because, like my mother, she carried the sickle cell gene, the trait, and so did my father. And so when you have children, two halves make a whole. So that's how I ended up with the full blown disease. And then my brother that's right up under me, he has the trait. So it's like, it's like a 1 in 4 chance of your children having the disease if you do carry the trait. And I'm pretty sure not many people know, that they're trait carriers. So
Yeah,
I think I
yeah.
talk about that when we're at the doctors. I think that they should, teach and in the African American communities about getting tested for that.
Yeah, because I can say for sure, like I know that my mom told me, but the only reason she told me about it was because her and my dad both had it, and
Yeah,
so she was like, she had explained why her and my dad had stopped having kids, and it was because they were like, okay, we've already had three kids, and they just were like the four, if 1 out of 4 chance, it's a
yeah,
chance at the fourth one. But I know that a lot of people don't even know if they have it or not.
exactly.
And even when I've been in like relationships or when I was married, I'm like, do you have the trait? Because I know that I do. And they're like, I don't know. And so
Right,
it's kind of hard to prepare yourself for something that you're not educated on.
exactly. Yeah.
And so this is like, obviously this is a huge part of your story, but what are some other things that you are passionate about? What are some things that you want to do in your life, just like now and moving forward in the future?
I like to educate people about it, especially in people in my circle. I would like to go to school for nursing because I think that we don't have enough people in our community that actually go to school for it. So because it would mean a lot, like for a patient to have like a nurse or a doctor that actually has sickle cell as well, that understands exactly what we're going through. People in our communities that have witnessed it, lived through it, things like that. So I would like to try to go to school for it. But I just want to make sure that I'm educating people along the way.
Yeah, I think that would be really beneficial because I could definitely say if I was struggling with something, if my doctor had it too or my nurse had it, I would be I would definitely want to listen to what they had to say because they actually know hands on what I'm experiencing.
Yes, and
Yeah.
me and my friend, we she has a group on Facebook, and so we talk to people in the group that have sickle cell, and it just feels good, to have a whole community that you can talk to that understands what you're going through. Um, and so I had thought about starting my own group as well because I have a lot of people on my Facebook page, Instagram, that share the same experiences that I do. And it's comforting because growing up, I didn't know anybody else with sickle cell, and
Hmm.
nobody else in my family have it. So it made me feel like so alone. And so when I got older and I started going to a sickle cell clinic at the hospital, that's when I met a lot of my peers that have it. And so it was just so exciting. And, they started telling me about these groups on social media that you can join and, talk to people from all over the world that have it too. And so I think that is pretty, pretty, pretty awesome. And I would like to start my own group as well.
And so, what is some advice that you would give to somebody who's listening if they are struggling, maybe not just with sickle cell, but just with something that's an ongoing, illness that they're kind of fighting and battling? What is some advice that you would give them to encourage them to keep pushing and keep going?
I would tell them to keep their head up. Talk to somebody. Somebody. What it doesn't have to be, a family member. It could be a friend, or, it could, you can join a group of a lot of people that share the same experience as you, to make you feel better, and also, just stay strong because you were dealt this hand of cards for a reason. And so, we're stronger than the average person. So just keep fighting.
And what do you do to stay strong?
Um, I actually, I surround myself with love. I feel like my family and friends helped me. They helped push me when I was in a dark space. They didn't give up on me. And then I have my kids too. They look up to me. They think I'm superwoman. And so it just makes me feel good, to just be surrounded by love. And because I was in a dark place at one point in time, and I don't want to go back there, so it's just like talk about it, I post about it on social media, and I feel like it's better once you get it out. Like, some people are probably like, oh my gosh, she's always talking about the same thing. But I feel like it's better to get it out, because to know that somebody out there, you're helping somebody by talking about it, whether you know so or not.
Yeah. And that I would definitely say, like, as somebody obviously who is on your social media and I see your post, I mean, it is very inspiring to me because I firsthand don't know what it's like to be struggling with something, especially something that people may not think is even that big of a deal. Or something that's ongoing. So I definitely admire that about you because it has been something where it's like, I don't even feel right to complain about, little things that happen in my life when I know people are going through things on a regular basis and they're, you're always smiling, you're always laughing, you're never, like even if you're having a bad day, you like you're still like your makeup's done, like you're always just, you're putting your best self out there. And I think that that's going to inspire so many people because so often we want to just give up when things get hard.
Yeah.
And so I know you said like you have your kids and you have your family. Are those probably like the main reasons why you haven't, you didn't give up when you were in the dark place?
Yeah, it is. And, you know, once you, um, realize that, you know, it gets better, then you'll have a totally different train of thought. Because I used to think, oh, like, oh my god, this is never going to get better, but it does. And I have, I still have my days, but for the majority of the time, I feel like, when you speak, happiness and positivity, um into yourself, it gives you a different look on life.
Yeah. And what are some of the positive like affirmations or things that you have to say to yourself?
I tell myself, I'm strong, I'm beautiful. I always say that to, I'm pretty sure you've seen some of my videos. Beautiful, strong, and you were, given this life to prove, to show people, that it's not always bad. There are good days. Everybody has their bad days. You're not the only one. Everybody's going through something. You're not the only one. And it makes me feel a lot better. You know,
Yeah.
Nobody fix, and it's always gonna get better.
Yeah, and we laugh because you talked about like your videos, but those videos are inspiring because even it's like that's something that we all need to learn to do is to look at ourselves and love ourselves despite the things we've gone through. Because even though you have sickle cell, I'm sure this is not the only thing in your life that you're dealing with. Like you actually have a life too. Like this is not the only thing. And so, a lot of us, we have multiple things that we're juggling and multiple things that we're trying to overcome, but we still have to keep going. And so I did want to ask you outside of this, what are some other things that you think have like impacted you and changed your life?
Just to see, you know, um, like when I, just to see how big of an influence that I can be on other people. And we don't notice that, we don't realize that, but I have like people on my social that don't even know me. Like, say their page gets hacked or something, they make a new page and they send me a friends request. They say, can you please add me? I've been following you and watching your journey, and I would like to, be your friend. I have to make a new page. I have people that inbox me on all my socials. They're like, you know what, you're really strong. Keep fighting. I see your testimony and I think it's wonderful. Or, you're such a good mom. And it's like, I don't, when I'm thinking in my head and I'm battling, I'm not thinking about those type of things. And so just to see it, sometimes, I'm like in tears, or like just to know that people are really watching me, and I can be like a big influence on people.
And you definitely can, and you are.
Just feel like that.
Yeah. And I think often we don't know who's watching us because everyone who's watching us, they don't always say something. They may not always, comment on the post or heart something. But I definitely believe that you have people who are like struggling, and even if it's not with the same thing that you're struggling with, they're looking at you and they're kind of looking at you like a role model or somebody that they can look up to. And so now knowing that, like knowing that you have people who reach out to you, knowing that people are watching you, does that kind of help the situation? Does it make you want to like create a bigger platform?
It does, and that's one of the reasons why. Cause for a while, I had stopped posting like my videos, like of me in the hospital or things like that. Cause I was like, well, I just don't want to flood my timeline with negative stuff because I want people to know that even though I have sickle cell, there's more to me than that. And so once I started getting those requests and messages, it was just like, okay, well, and even people with sickle cell that are just not, bold enough to like put themselves out there in such a vulnerable space. They're like, oh, you posting, you in the hospital or, your port being accessed, that inspires me to post, when I'm going through things like that. And so that's when I was like, okay, I can keep going, like it's not always bad. I just want people to see, that I'm not perfect and that I am going through stuff, but I get through it too. And so I post my positive things, but I also post, my most vulnerable things too, just so people can see both sides of me.
Yeah. And I love that you said that you go through stuff, but you get through it.
Yeah.
Because that's a big thing. It's like you want people to know that, yes, I could struggle with something, but I always make it to the other side. And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things that I notice about you. And I really appreciate you agreeing to come on here and share such a vulnerable thing and really just raise awareness for something that even somebody having the trait don't even know a whole lot about the disease. So I definitely want to connect with you again and we can talk a little bit more and maybe on a even bigger platform so that you can really bring awareness into the community. Can you please let everybody know where they can find you as far as like social media and that kind of thing?
Yes. My Facebook is Jada Ray. And then my Snapchat and Instagram is I'm So Kansas City. It's all together.
Okay, and I'm going to put all her information down below. So please follow her, reach out to her. If you have questions, please ask her and just learn more and educate yourself so that we don't have a whole group of people who are, struggling with something and we don't know how to help. I thank you again, Janice. I love you. You're so inspirational to me. If I don't ever tell you that enough, I just want you to know that I really admire you and I love watching how you're growing. I can't wait to see what the next season of your life looks like. So I really appreciate you agreeing to be on Unmute Your Mic. Thank you everybody for listening. You
Thank
can
you.
download this on we'll be on YouTube. Please subscribe. We will also be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So please go download, show support, follow Jamise on all her social media, and I thank you again. I love you.
Love you too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Unmute Your Mic. Be sure to tune in next time when Jessica takes her mic off mute as she continues her journey to find stories that inspire and uplift our communities.